So you can create layer with this, create new layer, and you can move the object between layers by click and drag, right? And each layer has, it's color coded, and you can see the as it's been selected, the selection color changes as it moves to another layer. Okay, so that's one way to move object between layers. So in this case, we want to lock it. Now, let's say we created everything, and without the sun, we just created the sun on the layer 2 and other elements, and like a layer 3, if we want to have a background, something like this, then I could, let me just, let's say, like this. Now, I just drew the background, and then I can just click and drag it down between you see that, like, there's a line. I can just drag it down to below the layer 2, so it would just below it. You could use, let's say, just select this, the green background. Let's say that's sky. So you could use the sky, select it, and then bring it up, and then let's say they're on the same layers, right? If they're on the same layer, then you could use object and arrange, and then send the sky all the way back. So these two objects are on the same layer, but arranged it differently so that the sky is behind the sun. You understand? So far so good? Okay. So layers, you don't have to worry about the order of it as you create. You could just create elements as you go, just to make sure that, let's say if I want to do sky, then make sure that you name it. I should have told you this naming thing. You can just double click the name of the layer, and then type sky, and then double click again, and then sun, like this. Right. So the layer. So I have selected the sun layer, right? But sky is still selected for some reason. It's gonna be always like that. If I just click and drag, it will select both of them. Unless you lock it. You have to lock each layer if you don't wanna move or select object by accident. Does that make sense? So Illustrator did not have layers before, like really old version. It was basically just arranging objects and then just putting it top of each other or below. But as things get complicated, they want you to just create a layer. It's consider as a sort of like a grouping, but it's hierarchy wise, it's a top and the bottom kind of thing, so just create like what's for now, since it's kind of confusing, I think it's probably better you just create layer for each element and then work with it, and then you can just kind of shuffle around if you need to. So that's layer, and if you want to delete, you can use the garbage can, trash can, and what else? Okay, I think that's layer, and masking for the sun. So first, let's say I'm ready to draw a sun like this, and if I want to have a spiky thing around it, I should just create it now. Let me just use this. Like, let's say, I'm selecting top of the top two anchor points here, and then just scale. Zoom in a little bit. Bring it together. And it should be pointy, but let's just do this for now. So here, and then I could use, let's see, align tool, and then center both like this, and then select this. I'm gonna rotate it around, right? So let's just see where the center is, outline, and then rotate tool. So that's going to be the center of the rotation. I'm going to copy this spiky thing. So hold down Option and then click center. So I want to have about what, 360 degrees. So, you know, like, let's move 20 and see if it looks good. Or maybe it's too little. Maybe we'll just do 15 maybe. Okay, so just copy that and then Command D to, so Command D is the transform again. We talked about it last class. This. Okay, and then I'm gonna do View, Preview. Okay, so it looks good. Looks like a sun. So now, sure, it's a window. Where is it? Align. Okay. And it's I think it's a tab group with the Pathfinder and Transform. So now we talked about grouping the objects or making compound path so that it's a one object. So in this case, we have multiple shapes. So if we, let's say, place art, place. So I'm going to send this back to, because the object should be top of the image. So then arrange, bring front. Oh, I'm sorry, bring to back. Arrange, send to back. Okay, so let me just do this. So the object is in front of the image, and if I select everything and then do clipping mask, then it won't work because there are just multiple objects. So we need to make the sun, the spiky, and the circle as one object. Okay, so we're gonna drag everything, select everything, and then drag, hold down Shift, and then drag the square. Okay, so that I only have the sun. Then go to Object, Compound Path, and make. Now, I think I missed one spiky thing here. Let me just release. Okay, I'll just go View Outline. So it's not selected. So let me just try it again. Select everything. Okay, so I selected everything. And then go to Object, Compound Path, Make. Now they are one object. So let me just preview it. So if I just click on circle, it will select everything. It's different than a grouping. Grouping, it was under here, group. This is just making multiple individual objects as just as a group. But compound path is making multiple objects as one object. So that's good. Now select the texture and then go to object, then clipping mask, make. It's good. So that's how you make it. I know it can be multiple steps, but it's everything we talked about. So just, just one at a time. Okay. Any questions? Do it again. No? Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Right. So we're using, so again, it's just one thing like top of each other. We're just stacking different operations, right? So what we need to do is first we need to draw a circle, right? And then the spiky, and then they need to be centered, like align them, right? Then you need to align it, and then use the center of the circle as an axis, right? You're rotating the spiky thing, right? As you rotate, instead of just rotating and moving, you're copying things. Okay, so let me just do it again. Move it aside. Let me just make this black so that looks okay. Now I'm holding down shift and then dragging these two, so it's deselected. Okay, so far so good, right? We have the circle, we have the spiky thing. Right, so we have to move this thing, rotate this thing, but rotating is two type of things, like, rotating within the object, the axis within the object, right? So it's just rotating in that place. Now, if you're rotating outside of the object, then it will be different, right? Right. So the rotation tool, right? Rotate tool, select that, and then you just, I'm not clicking it, like just click anywhere, then it changes, and then you rotate, just drag it, right? Like this. Again, you click anywhere, and then drag. If you want to do it within the object, you can just do this, drag. Or if you want more precise control, then select the rotate tool and then hold down option to bring out you see the little dots, right? That's your selecting. That means you're gonna have a pop-up dialog box. You're gonna have options. So click on it, then it will have this dialog box that it wants you to. So you can preview it. You can copy, or you can just simply move it or rotate it. So if I just say OK, then it will just move. If I say copy, then it will just make a copy. Good? Sure. So the sun and the spiky here. Now the spiky need to go all the way around, and it's the center of the circle as its axis. So I'm gonna select the spiky and then select the rotate tool, So I don't know whether you have this option turned on or not, but if I bring it over to close to center, it'll just show center. It's a hint. If you don't, okay. If you don't see it, then you can see it with the outline, and then you just click on it, center, right? Now you click on it. Now you can just rotate it like this, but we want the precise control. So hold down Option, right? Hold down Option, and then click to bring up the dialog box. And then we can, use different angles, but in this case, we use the 15 degrees. And that seems like about the right. And instead of just moving it or rotating it, we're making copies. Now, so you have to hold down Option or Alt to you see the okay. So the transform, interesting about transform, this transform again, Command D, Command D command is the operation that just happened, it's gonna repeat. However, you have to have the object being selected. If you don't have this selected, then it wouldn't know which one to repeat. So it'll be grayed out like that. So let's say, so you just did it, and then the new object is by default selected, and you go transform again, Command D. So you just hit Command D multiple times, you're creating the spiky thing. Sounds good? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be this exact shape. You can just create different object and test it out and see how it works. And then you can select everything, object, and go to compound path and make. Okay. Right, so you could draw, but you can use a polygon tool and then just put, like, let's see. You could bring out the option. You can click while holding down the Option or Alt, then you will have this dialog box. And then so the triangle, it'll be 3 sides. And then you can just say, okay, that's too small. See, okay, that's good. So click and drag. You can hold down Shift, right? Again, I think you set your number of sides here in the dialog box first, and then say okay, and then you can just drag or hold down Shift. This. Now, it would have to be a little bit taller, so in this case, we'll just select the bottom 2 anchor points, right? And then we're gonna bring it closer. I mean, you can just, use a keyboard. Just, hit arrow key like this, or you can drag, but you want to be, precise. So just select both of them, and then just do scale. Just so not the whole triangle, but just the path. We're scaling the path. So it's there, bring it together. You don't have to do this way. You can just do, hold on Shift and then move like, with the arrow key. By holding down, you're moving 10 pixels, right? And then again, like this, twice. Okay.